afternoon, my darlings, or should I say good evening. Now, it is Friday the 24th of May and we have 1 week to go. Aren't we lucky? Yes. Well, the internet was out all day because we were changing providers, and lo and behold, would you believe, the code that they sent didn't work. So this is why I'm a little bit later tonight. But in true fashion, I'll always be fabulous and I will always be late. And fabulously late is what I am tonight. Now, one of the things that you may guess from tonight's book is don't panic. Have you guessed what it is yet? There we are, Douglas Adams, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the first of the trilogy. First published in October on the 12th in 1979 by Pan Books. And this edition is from January the 1st, 2002 by Picador. And this was in my hospital bag because that was the year that my darling big girl fairy was born, and in the July, and this was in my hospital bag to while away the agonies of labour. And let's say it was just a wonderful companion. You can't go around the universe unless you know where your towel is or where your copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is, and it takes your mind off many things, and labour is one of them. Yes. Well, tonight, my darlings, I bring you the absolute classic. Yes, it is. This is the first of the trilogy. The second is The Restaurant at the End of the Universe. And the third is Life, the Universe, and Everything. Oh, what can I say? The ideas, the plot, the puns have influenced an entire generation of be writers or readers. If we have not had the Babel fish, we might never have got and may have struggled to use Google Translate. And without the pan-galactic gargle blasters, we may never have had Nigella Lawson and her fabulous cookbooks. Adam's wit and wisdom still amaze me in their greatness. And to this day, the love I have for this man burns so strong. To quote, "Would it save you a lot of time if I just gave up and went mad now?" I am going to give you a little treat at the start of this marvellous book. Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive that they still think digital watches are a pretty neat idea. Why did we waste all our time? Digital watches, or Apple for that matter. This planet has, or rather had, a problem. Which was this: most of the people living on it were very unhappy. They were unhappy for pretty much of the time. Near enough all the time. They weren't moaning, they were complaining. It's the same thing, isn't it? Many solutions were suggested for this problem, but most of these were largely concerned with the movements of small green pieces of paper which is odd because of the whole, it wasn't the small green pieces of paper that were unhappy. And so the problem remained. Lots of the people were mean. Yes. And most of them were miserable. Mean and miserable people. Do you find that you come across those many days? Even the ones with digital watches. Oh, you mean beans. Many were increasingly of the opinion that they had all made a big mistake in coming down from the trees. And some said that even the trees had been bad moves, and that no one should ever have left the oceans. And then, one Thursday, nearly 2,000 years after one man had been nailed to a tree for saying how great it would be to be nice to people for a change, a girl sitting on her own in a small cafe in Rickmansworth suddenly realised what it was that had been going wrong all the time. And she finally knew how the world could be made a good and happy place. This time it was right. It would work. And no one would have to get nailed to anything. Sadly, however, before she could get to a phone to tell anyone about it, a terrible, stupid catastrophe occurred, and the idea was lost forever. Welcome to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is not her story, but it is the story of that terrible, stupid catastrophe and some of its consequences. It is also the story of a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Not an Earth book, never published on Earth, and until the terrible catastrophe occurred, never seen or even heard of by any Earthman. Nevertheless, a wholly remarkable book. In fact, it was probably the most remarkable book ever to come out of the great publishing corporations of Ursa Minor, of which no Earthman had ever heard either. Not only is it a wholly remarkable book, it is also a highly successful one, more popular than the Celestial Home Care Omnibus, better selling than 53 More Things to Do in Zero Gravity, and more controversial than Oolon's Colufids trilogy. Oh, that took some saying. Trilogy of philosophical blockbusters. Just love this book. I love it. Where God went wrong, some more of God's greatest mistakes. And who is this God person anyway? In many of the more relaxed civilizations on the outer eastern rim of the galaxy, the Hitchhiker's Guide has already supplanted the great Encyclopedia Galactica as the standard repository of all knowledge and wisdom. For though it has many omissions and contains much that is apocryphal, or at least wildly inaccurate, it scores over the older, more pedestrian work in two important respects. First, it is slightly cheaper, and secondly, it has the words "Don't Panic" inscribed in large friendly letters on its cover. But the story of this terrible, stupid Thursday, the story of its extraordinary consequences, and the story of how these consequences are inextricably intertwined with this remarkable book begins very simply. It begins with a house. Your friend Douglas Adams. Douglas, I love you. You are the scientific science fiction friend. You gently take us by the hand and we jump into the unknown, into the void. I love him because he doesn't take life too seriously. I love him because he created Vogon poetry. And Marvin, he created Marvin for us. And he is the paranoid android. And isn't there a little bit of Marvin in all of us? First 1,000 years were the worst. And was it the first 10,000 years were the worst? And then the second 10,000 years were the worst. And after that, I went into a bit of a decline. We all have a little bit of Marvin in us, don't we, darlings? We really do. And Arthur Dent, yeah, we have, dare I say, us Brits are a little bit Arthur, aren't we? And we all really want that friend, Ford Prefect, to whisk us round the universe, as long as we know where our towel is. And how could I forget Trillian? And Zaphod Beetlebod. Yeah, I'm probably butchering these names right now. I'm doing my best. So I bought this book 22 years ago, and obviously because my darling eldest child is 22 this year, I don't feel ready to have a child that's 22 years old. I don't feel ready to have one that's 20. But here I am, rocking it, being the best mom I can be. And I did that by passing these on to my children. And I do believe that Douglas Adams needs to be passed on to the next generation from this generation. And I'll say something different tonight. I'm going to say to you, so long, and thanks for all the fish. And happy readings, darlings, and enjoy. And I will see you tomorrow with another absolute belter, because we have 7 days in 7 ways to bring you a thrill. And I will. Oh, I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. It's because I read books like this. I can honestly say that they do bounce about a little bit, these books, and they can be, to some, slightly bonkers. I will say it jumps about a bit like a manic puppy on drugs. And there are lots of jokes in here that will fly over a lot of people's heads. If you lack a sense of humour, yeah, and some basic quantum physics understanding. No, I'm joking. It is a fabulous book. Get bitten by Douglas Adams. Read his works. They are music for the soul. The world is a better place because Douglas was in it, and he gave us this, his soul, in book form. Don't pass it by. Read it, enjoy the heck out of it, and have fun. And remember, We're all a bit like Marvin, and we're all a bit like Arthur Dent, and Ford, and Trillian, and Zaphod. And we mustn't forget Slarty Blartfart. Yeah. Good evening, my darlings. Good night, good luck. Get this book, read it. Right? I promise you'll have a good time. Yeah. And I shall see you tomorrow night.